Hello, Maureen.
Hello, Elaine.
It's good to see you. And to those who are watching and listening, this is Maureen Garrity, and she has just made a very substantial gift to this fundraiser in the amount of $25,000 designated to our Bowen Family Assistance Fund. And wow, thank you so much, Maureen.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited to be able to do it.
Aw, that's wonderful. And Maureen, will you please tell our friends what your connection to organ transplantation is?
Yes, I had a son, Quinn, who had 2 liver transplants in his lifetime of 25 years. The first one he had at 6 months in San Francisco. He lived very well with it for 23 years when he needed to have a second one. And he had that in Cleveland at the Cleveland Clinic. And he lived with it another 2.5 years very well, did some really inspiring things, and then passed away in 2016.
Everyone listening joins me in, feeling the sadness of that. And yet I've had conversations with you, and I know that you've done something that's helped to turn some of that sadness into some good. And do you want to explain the Memorial Fund?
I would be happy to. Thank you. So the Memorial Foundation was set up in order to help other families, so to take my experience, Quinn's experience, and to make it better for someone else. Foundation was a way to do that. And one of the things that was important to both of us was to have a transplant patient assistance fund that could do many different things, but primarily, and it's interesting because Quinn and I had found some notes of Quinn's that said, from our conversations we'd had about his experiences and mine and how we might be able to make it better. But specifically, it was about paying for hotel rooms or lodging for families so that we could take care of medical expenses, which is very interesting because this is exactly in line with what your fundraiser is. So it's actually quite a match. And I didn't know that the Transplant House actually had a patient assistance fund itself. So when I found that out, it seemed like it was a perfect match for both things because what the pillar of the foundation actually is for that. And it's really about making it better for the families, but also because they worry so much about so many different things.
Right. And that reminds me, you shared that Quinn had worried about you finding a hotel, living in a hotel, and paying for a hotel during his hospitalizations, which is really cute. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very sweet, but you don't really realize that that's what they're thinking about. Because as the caregiver and as mom, I wanted to be thinking about, not to be sad and this is going to work out and you have to focus on paying it or getting better and paying attention to your health and all that. And he's worried about where are you going to stay and how long are you going to stay and how are you going to pay for it. So it's a worry that you don't really expect, right? And that you're not really aware of. So trying to relieve it is a gift.
Yeah. You're reminding me, we've had several wives of male patients who are inpatient who say that their husbands calmed down once they started coming to the hospital and talking about other wives they were meeting here at Transplant House. That really put them at peace when all of a sudden they realized, oh, my wife is surrounded by a community there, and I'm not quite as worried about her safety and her loneliness. And that really helped relax the patient. So we, of course, love knowing that, and it's part of our intention here is to reduce the stress for the entire family. And I'm wondering if you have any impressions of Transplant House you want to share based on your visit here a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you for asking. The Transplant House is a very unique environment and an opportunity to allow people to live there, to gather there, and to be able to take care of themselves and their lives as they need to. And it's also something that's local to the community, so it's good for all of us. What we don't really realize is that we need to be around other people in those instances, other people who have been through it, who might know someone who's been through it, who might be able to have a conversation with us about that, as well as other staff members, or maybe a social worker, or just even the environment to be there, it feels like home. There's a little less stress in it. You can have your own space if you want. And if you don't want, you can go have dinner with other people. So it actually gives you different environments to do different things. And that's opportunity, right, for everybody, but it's also, less worry for everyone, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Maureen, it's just great to connect with you in this way. We look forward to when you can be back here on campus with us. And until then, thank you on behalf of all the families that are here now and have been here in the past and will be here in the future. Your gift is very significant, and we are grateful.
You're welcome. Thank you for the kind words. It was my pleasure. I really am happy to be able to do that for people. So thank you.
All right, you be well.
You too.
Thank you.
We're going to the opera. I'm Elaine Turley.
I'm Erica Miller.
And I'm Mark Thompson, and we are co-founders of Transplant House of Cleveland.
In early 2010, Art took the two of us to lunch, and by the end of that meal, the three of us had committed to creating Transplant House of Cleveland, with the mission of providing affordable temporary housing and a welcoming and supportive community to organ transplant patients and their families.
We all knew that transplantation was, personally and professionally, we all knew that transplantation was an emotional roller coaster, and we didn't think anybody should be on that roller coaster alone. So we incorporated, we got our nonprofit status, we began building our board, and we started looking for a home.
And the first person we recruited to the board is Kay Kendall. Kay is a transplant social worker who's devoted her career to helping patients and entire families and guiding them through the transplant journey. And Kay continues to inspire us on the importance of providing a community to caregivers and the really positive impact that can make on the medical outcome of patients.
So we continued to build that board, and then in July of 2014, we opened the doors of our first apartment in University Circle to greet Ashley Foster and her mother Miriam Bland, who had driven all the way from Arizona in pursuit of a 4-organ transplant for Ashley. During the 3 years that they were with us, Ashley did receive that gift of life, and at the same time, she and Miriam became instrumental in helping us set a culture of radical welcome and compassion and assistance and gratitude, and that culture is still alive today at Transplant House.
In the 6.5 years, we started with 7 apartments, and we grew to now 25 apartments. We now also have community space where we have shared meals, discussion groups, transplant topics, massage, yoga, and my favorite, art. And this year we hired a clinical transplant coordinator, the social worker, Annette Humberson, who oversees this, all these issues, and offers one-to-one counseling for the families that are staying here, as well as families who live in the Cleveland area.
So as of today, Transplant House has served over 1,000 families from all across the country and from 4 different countries. That equates to about 33,000 room nights and an occupancy that hovers around 85%. All of this is possible only through the generous support of Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, Life Bank, and many individuals. In fact, contributions from individuals are our main source of charitable support. Of note are Brian and Diane Vitale, who made it their mission to support Transplant House after Brian's liver transplant in 2013. They have given or raised over $200,000 for Transplant House, which is really remarkable when you consider that they live outside of Ohio in New Jersey. And we share this just to highlight the importance of passion in making the ask.
It's really exciting to hear you go through that history and the list of all the things that happen here, and to be together as a trio this evening. And we're so glad that all of you who are watching at home are with us tonight for this virtual fundraiser that we call it home. That name comes from the guests we serve. Most of them end up calling this place home, sometimes to their own surprise. Tonight we have set a financial goal of $60,000 for Transplant House, $30,000 of which will go to the Gordon Bowen Family Assistance Fund and help people that have extended stays with us. And the rest of the money we raise will support the free programming that Erica named, both for people in residence here and for people in the Cleveland area. So we're very hopeful for that goal. And without further ado, we hope that you will sit back with your meals from Zug or Edwin's or your favorite local restaurant, as we are going to do, and watch this wonderful production by Jen Woda, Jennifer Bromagen, and Brian Thornton, who are going to be introduced in a video momentarily. So sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you.
Hello, Jennifer Bromagen and Jen Woda.
Hello.
Hello. Jennifer, wave.
Hello.
There we go. And Jen, wave.
Hi.
There we go. So I'm so pleased to be talking to you in this format right before you're going to perform for us this evening. And I know that that is going to be beautiful, beautiful music. I also know that your story of your friendship and where it has gone is 1,000 times more beautiful than any music. And so we're here to ask if you will share that story with us so that we can listen with different ears to your beautiful voices very shortly. And Jen, I understand if we can look backward just a little bit. I understand that September 12th of 2019, just over a year ago, you received the gift of a kidney transplant from Jennifer. And I also know that life prior to that transplant was probably difficult. And I'm wondering if you could give us a glimpse into what your life was like then.
So when I was 19, that's when I found out that my kidney function was about 33%.
Wow.
And they didn't really know why at the time, but they didn't panic. I felt perfectly fine. And they said, we're just going to keep an eye on it and check your numbers every year. And so from that time until about 4 years ago, my numbers were pretty steady. They dropped to about 25%. Between 25 and 30, but I didn't feel any ill effects as far as I knew. But then 4 years ago, we dipped down to 15%.
Wow.
And so then my nephrologist said, well, you know, it's not time for a transplant right now, but you probably should go and just do the workup and just kind of get ready. And I was like, okay, because I felt fine. But I did get the workup in January of 18. And then things moved forward. I sort of, in May of 18, I met a woman who had had a transplant 6 months prior. She looked to be around my age, and I said, oh, I really need to get serious about this. So I went on Facebook and I said, hey, friends, I need a kidney. And Jennifer saw that post and said, I'll get tested, along with probably 15 other people, which was incredible that people were willing to do it. But Jennifer ended up to be the match. And so, like I said, I was never on dialysis, but I was, post-transplant, looking back, I was very fatigued. I was very tired. I wasn't able to do any kind of major exercise. If I did teach the music classes that are very active, I would need a nap afterwards, that kind of thing. So I didn't have nausea or loss of appetite or lots of other symptoms that people can have, but I was definitely tired and not able to live my life fully the way I wanted to.
Jennifer, can you tell us, where you're sitting, where geographically, where you are, because two of us are in Cleveland.
Yes, I'm actually in Seattle, Washington. So my husband and I lived in Cleveland. My family is from the Cleveland area. We were there for a number of years, and Jen and I actually met performing together. And but we moved to Seattle about 14 years ago now. So yes, I'm in Seattle.
Oh, wonderful. And you sang with what group together?
We sang with the Cleveland Opera together, but we also did some church jobs together. We sang at Temple together. It's so funny. I can't even really remember all of the things that we did together. We've known each other for a long time. So.
And was it as simple as Jen said, that you literally read about her need for a kidney on Facebook?
Yeah, kind of. So I guess you have to know Jen to understand why so many people were willing to get tested. She's, such an inspiration to me. Our lives are very parallel. So my husband and I have also been married for 23 years. We also have 2 daughters. I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. She's just an amazing person. So when I saw it, both my husband and I actually got tested, and our thought behind it was, if we can make her quality of life better, why not do that? So yeah, it was kind of an easy decision. I'll say initially it was an easy decision to get tested, and then I think as you move along in the process, you definitely kind of have to analyze a little bit more. Okay, so what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my family? But my family was very supportive of the decision. I think it comes with its own sets of concerns. I mean, anytime you have a major surgery, there are concerns. But their level of support was wonderful, and so there really wasn't a time where I was having second thoughts or anything like that. It just seemed like the right thing to do, and I feel that way 100% today. So
you're making me cry, Jennifer.
Oh no, stop.
If you'll mention your husband's profession.
Yeah, he is a cellist. Yes, with the Cleveland Orchestra. So he's actually been home because they have been staying home as well. But he's been recording lots of videos. Actually, we're going to share a video that you'll probably be able to share as well of his, because he wanted to contribute as well.
As I said, for me, it was different. It was just something I just did, and it made sense to me. But it didn't really hit me until it was the day before the surgery, and we had stopped by Jen and Brian's house, and we're visiting with the family. And as we were leaving, Brian gave me a hug and he said, "Thank you for saving Jenny's life." And I was like, what? No, that never even entered my mind, but that's what it is. It's a gift of life. It's changing somebody's life in a way that I could never do otherwise. And, so I completely understand people who are kind of on the fence. I just say, do it. You won't regret it.
You saved a life, and you also saved Jen from maybe years on dialysis. You didn't ever have to go there, and I know that's no way to live. Sometimes people think, oh, well, you have dialysis, you don't need a transplant. It's a horrible way to live, and it's not the best thing for the human body or spirit. So how beautiful. I think that's a wonderful place for us to wrap up. I do want to say I will listen to your performances with different ears. And thank you so much for being willing to share that gift, but this gift of your personal story with us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual recital. We are very excited to share some music with you. My name is Jen Woda, and my friend here, partner in crime, singing partner, is Jennifer Bromagen. We're coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio, and
we're Seattle, Washington.
Excellent. So we are on both ends of the country. I'm happy to share our music with you. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Cleveland Heights. I went to Cleveland Heights High School, and then I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, and then I went to Akron U to get my master's in opera performance. And since then, I've sung all over Cleveland, opera, musical theater. I've done some acting, all different kinds of performing, and I love it.
And a little bit of background for me. I was born in Pittsburgh, but spent most of my life in Ohio. My family lived in Cleveland for a long time. I got my undergrad degree from the Oberlin Conservatory and did some postgraduate work at the Cleveland Institute of Music at Case Western Reserve. We've been living in Seattle for about 14 years now. And so that's basically where I do most of my work.
And Jennifer and I know each other because we used to sing together in the Cleveland Opera Chorus. We sang together for many years. We did many performances together, and we always had a really, really great time. Her husband, Scott, also sang in the chorus with us. And my husband is also a musician. He is a cellist, and you'll get to hear him a little bit later. So we were friends from our time in the chorus, and then time came that I needed a kidney. And I put out a call on Facebook asking my friends near and far if anyone had a blood type that was compatible and be willing to be tested to be a kidney donor. And lo and behold, Jennifer was a match and ended up so generously giving me a piece of herself on September 12th of 2019. So I'm so fortunate to be an even better singer now that I have a little bit of Jennifer inside of me. The first piece that we'll be performing virtually for you this evening is Belle Nuit, also known as the Barcarolle, from the opera The Tales of Hoffmann by Offenbach. This opera tells three different stories where Mr. Hoffmann is the protagonist for the whole thing. This duet is the opening of Act 3, and the scene is the soprano and the mezzo in a gondolier floating down the canals of Venice. And one of the reasons this piece is sometimes referred to as the Barcarolle is that a barcarolle is actually the traditional song of the gondoliers of Venice. So as you hear us singing this song about the beauty of love and the beauty of the night, see if you can imagine being in the canal and feeling the beat of the oars as we go by. This is Belle Nuit.
Up next, we're going to keep with our nighttime theme, and I'm going to perform an aria from Mozart's Die Zauberflöte, which is the magic flute. This is the Queen of the Night's first aria called O Zittre nicht. This is the first time we see the Queen of the Night, and her daughter has been abducted, and she is trying to convince the tenor to help her save her daughter. you'll hear the change in the music where she's so distraught talking about when her daughter was abducted, and then turning her attention to the tenor and saying, you could be the one to save her, and if you do, you can live together in happiness for the rest of your lives. She's definitely seen as the helpless, defenseless woman in this scene, but as the show moves on, you definitely see there are some ulterior motives going on there. So I'd also like to thank Seattle Opera, who is allowing me to use this recording. This was done at the Tagney Jones Hall at Seattle Opera, and Jay Rosendahl is my pianist. So thank you, Seattle Opera, and I hope you enjoy.
Serving as a little intermission for our virtual recital, we have a guest artist, Mr. Brian Thornton. He is an excellent cellist, and he is in the Cleveland Orchestra. He's been in the Cleveland Orchestra for over 25 years. And he graciously allowed us to use one of his recordings that he had recorded for the orchestra during virtual time when the orchestra hasn't been able to perform. So this is Brian Thornton using the a cappella app, which allows him to use many different boxes, just like we used for our duet. And he's bringing us a little bit of Here Comes the Sun for our sunrise during our virtual recital. Our next aria is performed by me, and it's the aria Mon cœur s'ouvre ta voix from Samson and Delilah by Sasson. In this aria, it is the biblical story, Samson and Delilah, and this is the scene where Delilah finally seduces him and convinces him to be on her team. This is actually an opera that Jennifer and I performed together with Cleveland Opera back in the day, and we both have kind of a funny behind the scenes story from when we performed it. The one that I remember the most is there's a big chorus in this opera, and there's a scene where there's a big chorus orgy scene where we're all supposed to be found on the ground being together. But right before that, there's a scene where Samson has had his hair shorn and he is pushing this big millstone around. So the set had this big millstone that he was putting around, and then there was maybe a 5-minute orchestral interlude before we had to move into the next scene. And because the set was so complicated and the millstone was actually pretty heavy, the stage crew wanted us to stay upstage and out of the way until they had cleared the set, and then we could come down and take our positions, and then the curtain would come up. So in one of the 3 performances that we did, the millstone broke and got stuck. And so the team was working and working to get it unstuck and get it off stage so that we could get down, and they couldn't get it. And we're hearing the music get closer and closer to the time when we're supposed to be in position and singing. And it was literally the very last minute before the curtain went up where we all had to sit there and get ourselves in a position like we had been laying around eating and drinking for hours, when in fact we had just rushed down and gotten in position right before the scene, but the audience had no idea. So that's my memory of the opera.
Yes, it's always fun to talk about the behind the scenes where, you know, the audience has no idea of the chaos that's happening behind the scenes. And my favorite memory of that show is during Tech Week, you know, when you're really working out the issues of being on stage and bringing in all of the set pieces. Of course, at the end of the opera, Samson tumbles down the temple. And so we had this huge elaborate set, and Samson stands in the doorway and he presses the sides of the temple walls, and it all comes crumbling down. And of course you have these huge set pieces of brick and mortar that are coming down onto all of the people on the stage. And the first time we ran it, you would obviously, these huge pieces could not be like 50 or 100 pounds because they're falling onto cast members. And you would watch these huge pieces that were supposed to be rubble bouncing across the stage. And so trying to figure out how we could almost catch these huge pieces and then fall to the ground as if being crushed, as opposed to letting them bounce off of you and bounce across the stage. So fun behind the scenes stories.
Yes, I remember the director just being like, make it look like it's crushing you. Catch them if you have to. Anyway, here's Molka.
Our final piece of the program is arguably one of the most famous operatic duets. It is the flower song Do me paix from the opera Lakmé by Léo Delibes. Not a lot of people have seen the opera, but if you have watched TV in the past 30 years, I'm pretty sure you've seen this used in many commercials. It's used at weddings a lot. I actually walked down the aisle to this duet when I was married.
And I sang it at my best friend's wedding in Antigua.
Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, and just talks about the beauty of nature and of love. And we thought it would be a perfect ending to our program. So thank you so much and enjoy.
Enjoy. Thanks for being with us.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, Jen, Jennifer, and Brian. What an incredible performance.
Certainly was, and I'm so inspired by your stories.
Absolutely. And we were also inspired by the many stories shown over the last 3 days on video. And thank you to all those people who shared their personal lives with us, and also to all of you who have contributed to this event. And we want to remind you that all of those videos are housed on our website where you can watch them at any time.
And don't forget the donate button.
Oh yes, the donate button is there and always active as well. Good night,
Good, everybody. Thanks for joining us.